there's a fear I think people have that if the stuff is gone, the memory or the connection or the relationship is gone or the achievement. I'm an author. I've written 3 books, but I give away all my books. I don't have like a pile of my books. These are for people to read, not for me to accumulate.
We have to learn to let go.
So much of what I hear is I needed the permission. I wanted to get rid of this, but I felt anxious about it. And you telling me, you're going to be fine. You're going to be better than fine. I've really never had anyone say, I'm filled with regret that I gave away these things and I miss them.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. This one's an important one because it has to do with our environment. It's a place that we're, always dealing with, and how do we stay more relaxed and restful, but productive out of these environments. And today we're going to be diving in with minimalist powerhouse Shira Gill. She's the author of the newly released Lifestyled, Your Guide to a More Organized and Intentional Life. I need both. And as she shares the simple shifts that helped her design a life with more clarity, calm, and purpose. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by clutter, burnout, or the constant hustle, then this one's for you. Let's get intentional. Welcome to the Gabby Reece Show. Hi, Shira. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are you kidding? We all could use someone like you in our lives.
I hope so. I hope I deliver the goods.
Okay, so officially, you've written multiple books, and the premise behind a lot of it, and we'll get into actually, there's a lot of deeper things around it, being organized, organizing your environment, kind of decluttering. But officially for you, what do you consider what your job is?
Oh yeah, I've been working on that title for years. At this point, I kind of say I'm a stuff and life editor. So really, I help people gain clarity about what they care about, reduce clutter, and take action. And I do that through books, through working in people's homes, which I've done for over 15 years, through business mentoring. So now I'm kind of bleeding into all the areas of life. But really, I started in the home and then kind of worked my way through all the buckets of life.
So many times you'll hear, oh, less is more. And you're like, less, but better. And I thought that maybe that was less daunting to people, instead of feeling like, oh, I have to give up something. You sort of reframed it as this exciting opportunity for people, not only to enjoy their environments more, but even in your latest book, talking about kind of the mental impact that decluttering your life and clearing things out does. So I can't help but think, you said you worked in people's houses for 15 years. Probably after 5 or 7 years, you went, oh, there's much deeper things going on here.
You guessed it. Yeah, that's so funny that you say that, because it was about 5 years into my career that I realized, almost everyone I worked with was having some sort of tearful breakdown or straight up paralysis, a lot of guilt, a lot of shame.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up going and getting a life coach certification, not to really become a life coach, but because I really wanted to dig deeper and understand why are people feeling this way, and how can I help them more tactically.
How do you not get overwhelmed? And I'm talking, let's just talk on the superficial level. Like,
Yeah.
Anytime anybody's going to do spring cleaning or get in the cabinet in the kitchen that has all the containers that are mismatched in their lids or closets or what have you, how does your brain work that you don't go, holy cow, here we go?
So what's happening in my brain is I'm always looking for the potential, and I'm visualizing the after. And I think what happens for people is they're focused on the before or the during, right? But my brain, and I don't know why, this has been since birth, I guess, I can walk into a room that's completely chaotic, and instead of feeling overwhelmed, I feel very excited with the potential of what that room is about to become. So it's focusing on, I guess, the outcome.
Yeah.
And less on the process. And if you can keep that outcome really sharp in your brain, it can feel galvanizing and exciting instead of overwhelming or paralyzing.
It seems like a very natural tendency for you, but let's say somebody's listening and they go, you know what, I'm going to get the book and I'm really going to try to figure out a way to do my version of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will start and then they will bail.
Yeah. Most people. Yeah, most people decide they want to get organized and they unearth everything in their home and then they get completely overwhelmed and they stop. So, all of the books that I write and all of the work I do is very focused on the micro win. I love seeing like quick, rapid action and results. So, I would rather that someone overhauls their junk drawer and spends 15 minutes, then tries to organize their entire home or even a room.
Yeah.
I think what happens is we go too broad and we get too big with our goals, actually. And what I like to help people do is figure out and really crystallize like, what is the North Star? Like, why do we want to get organized anyway? Why do we care? And beneath that, like nobody would really say organization is the end goal. Like even me, and I love organization, but the end goal is to live a better and more fulfilling life. Um, to have more clarity, to have more spaciousness, to do the things that I care about, to spend time with the people that I love. So I think starting before you even take action, before you even get out the donation bag, you have to start by clarifying, what do I want and why do I want it? And then it's looking at, and how can my home or my environment support that big goal or vision? And that's really the North Star is like, for me, it was all about, I want to travel the world. I knew this when I was really little, and I realized very quickly that having a lot of stuff to manage gets in the way of taking off with a tiny suitcase and going around the world. And so I was motivated by that idea of traveling the world, not of getting organized or even being a minimalist. Everyone I work with has kind of a different vision of what they want. Maybe it's like they want to have the party house where people are always coming over and they're always cooking and entertaining and their kids are having sleepovers. Well, you can't do that if you're embarrassed to let someone through the front door.
Mm.
So I'm always kind of examining, the disconnect between what's the life that you want and what's the clutter that's in the way, whether it's, physical or mental or emotional.
Yeah. And it is amazing how we can use our stuff to pacify us, or if we felt incomplete about something in our childhood, it's like, well, if I cling on to this one thing, maybe I can connect with that moment, or, improve upon a moment that maybe it didn't go the way I wanted. And I
Mhm.
really appreciated that you shared in your book that you used organization as a I've thought about this a lot, that I always joke that I wipe down my counters a lot, and
Mhm.
after about 3 years of doing it, and then, what I started to notice, 'cause I have 3 daughters, is I thought, "What am I communicating to them?" I'm a pretty clean person, and my husband, like, we're pretty organized, not to your extent, but I thought, "Oh, I'm trying to control things." Like, I'm trying not to go in fight
Yeah.
or flight. My house is in chaos because just having kids and just stuff happening. And in this
Yeah.
one little square that's my kitchen counter, I have order. And I recognized that I was using that to try not to go into fight or flight.
Yeah. I mean, I use it that way every day. I think, I began this path when I was a little kid and my life and world felt very out of control. And I think, our homes are like a box we put our lives in. And I realized very young, like, I don't have control over what other people do or say or how they act or what's going on in the broader political landscape or, on and on, but I can control this little sliver of space. And for me, it really became a method of self care and kind of self soothing when things felt crazy.
Do you ever have this yourself where you're dancing with the fine line of, I'd like it to be a certain way, and right at this moment, it's good enough?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I have two teenage girls. I have a husband. I have a dog. I'm running a business out of a 1,200 square foot bungalow. There's a lot going on. And, sometimes I have to look at like the piles of teenage shoes and backpacks and go, like, well, this is actually like what I was building, right? Like, I wanted this life.
Mm.
And it's not about the dirty shoes. It's about like having teenagers that I love giggling in my living room. So that perspective helps me a lot. Listen, my house isn't always perfect, but I will say that for me, minimalism as a busy working mom has been like this secret magical solution where I truthfully don't feel like I spend very much time cleaning or organizing. My house is a machine. And I think because we've chosen, I mean, I've chosen and my family has luckily kind of reluctantly followed my lead, but we collectively own so little compared to the average family that people are constantly coming over and saying like, where's all your crap, like where are the messy piles, and we've gotten rid of them,
Mhm.
and that is an option that people have, and I think people forget, but I really like to empower people with that message that like decluttering is free and it's available to everybody. And you can decide at any point in your life, I've had enough managing the piles. I want to have less piles to manage.
I love that, and it's actually not different than the idea of wellness or being fit. It's actually what can I
Mhm.
take away? What are the things that are holding me
Right.
back from, being my optimal? Not, it doesn't mean, we all have to go and say we're gonna climb Mount Everest, but just this idea of like, I feel my best. And I think what I think is so valuable about you creating a process and a system for people is you're actually saying, no, we're taking away obstacles. We're not adding more things for you to do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it is like, I think the reason I started organizing is because when I became a mom, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And, I had a baby and a toddler and a job, and life seemed like too much. And so, again, back to those things we can control, I was like, well, I can't control much, but if I don't own a lot of gear and gadgets and a million baby toys and plastic things, I will have less friction in my daily life. I'll have less to clean and less to organize and less to maintain and eventually dispose of. And so it kind of became just this shortcut for me that I feel like is like somehow a secret, but it's like the less you own, the less you have to do.
Maybe you can share in Minimalista, you had a 5-step process.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like it feels like you trial and error put this together through hard-earned hours and, working with different clients.
Yeah, so what I realized, I think, I wrote my first book, Minimalista, about 12 years into my career as an organizer, and so I had organized every type of family, every type of, building, property, location, and I just saw eventually I realized I am doing the same process again and again, even though I felt like I was just showing up and kind of organically helping people, but I realized there actually is a process here. And so that's what I break down in Minimalista, and kind of the shorthand of it is step 1 is to clarify, what do I want? Why am I organizing? Why do I want to declutter or make a change? And I recognize I'm really on one extreme of the spectrum. Like, I want to own as little as humanly possible. Most people are not like that. And I respect that. And so I designed this book so it's like there is no right answer or
Mhm.
cookie cutter solution. There is no people always ask me like what is the right number of t-shirts to own? And I'm like, I don't know. I know what that answer is for me, but let's figure out for you what that answer is. So anyway, getting back to the process, it's clarify, right? What do I want? Why do I want it? And what's in my way? So I always start there. Then the second step, which is really the bulk of my work and this book, is edit. And editing is the thoughtful, intentional process of removing things. And I think it's the hardest part of the process for people because it requires a lot of mental energy. And, think about just if you're editing a single closet, that's dozens or potentially hundreds of decisions you have to make. And the brain does not love making decision after decision. It's exhausting. And so I really try to coach people through that process in a way that feels bite sized and hopefully even fun. It's fun for me. And so after you've edited, now you're left with, say, in a room or closet, only the things that you love and you value and you use. The next step is organization. And I think people really overcomplicate organization. So the way that I define organization is it is as simple as grouping similar things together and giving every item a home. You do not need to color code. You do not need to alphabetize. I try to organize in a way that a 5-year-old could manage and process and maintain. And I think that's a good test for people to make sure they're not overcomplicated. So we clarify, we edit, we organize, and then we elevate, which is the part that most people are really on board for, which is that's where you get to buy or invest in or repurpose the pretty things like bins or baskets or matching hangers, should you choose to. And then the final thing is just maintenance, right? So we do all this hard work, we get our house feeling good or a room feeling good, but life isn't static and you're always going to have things coming and going. So I talk about just very simple ways to maintain your home once it feels good and kind of be the gatekeeper of your home so you don't feel like there's just an insane amount of stuff coming through the front door all the time that then you're kind of pushing up a hill again.
So you said that you have 2 daughters and, they make beautiful little paintings when they're tiny, or you've got a bazillion pictures of them.
Yeah.
Because, it's funny, you could say, "Hey, this thing costs X dollars," and I think most of us have a harder time getting rid of these things. "Oh, my grandfather gave this to me," but it sits in a drawer. It's not like it's
Yeah.
a part of, like you said, life right now. So I'm just curious how you're able to say, "Okay, each year I'm gonna keep one picture that one of my girls made." Like, how did you sort of deal with that as well?
Yeah, and my girls are prolific artists starting from age 2. So, there were piles coming in every day, and I was like, "I've gotta figure this out or we're gonna just turn into a paper factory." So, my system with kid art specifically is you have one place in your home to display,
Yeah.
and you have one place to store the curated favorites, and those physical boundaries really help. So, we're in a very small home, which I mentioned. We're in a 120-year-old home with like no storage. And so when my kids would come home with all this art, we were limited to this little strip of metal that we have in our kitchen that's like a magnet board. So I would say to them, pick your favorites that you're the most proud of and let's put them on the magnet board. So that's nice because then everybody who comes into our house sees it, right? And it's kind of celebrated. The rest, I would mainly recycle, but I would have them pick out, what are your favorites that you're the most proud of? And for that, each one of them had like an art portfolio box that we still have that, we would add to. And as it got full or overstuffed, I would say, well, we've got to do a quick edit so we can have more art. So at this point, my kids are 14 and 16 and they each have one kind of overflowing art portfolio binder and one box like the size of a banker box that has things like their first haircut, their first pair of shoes, a medal that they won that they're proud of. But my goal, I think, as a mom early on was I want to hand them a box when they go off to college or their first home and have it be this like
Mm.
beautiful curation of their life and childhood instead of what happened to me, which is when I was in my 30s, my mom dropped off like 100 boxes of like everything I had ever done. And I have this tiny home and it was so overwhelming and impractical.
Yeah.
So I think of it as a gift, as a parent to help your kids make those decisions and kind of teach the value of like, you can't keep everything because then it has no value and it's not important.
Yeah.
Another, very personal example, I lost my father about 10 years ago, and I was the only family member on the West Coast and was tasked with cleaning out his entire home, which was a decently large home with storage and a garage. And, here I am with a baby and a toddler and a tiny house. And I had to make these decisions about what was important. And I found that the less I kept, the more meaning it took on. So I kept, the recipe, the handwritten recipe for mac and cheese that he had made me my whole life and framed it and honestly, like if everything else was gone, but I just had that and a handful of his letters, I'd be fine. And it was really just looking at the stuff and saying, what's just stuff like a coffee mug, a couch, a t shirt versus those few precious things that really make me feel connected to my dad.
Yeah. It's so beautiful, and what an important thing you're teaching your girls about. We have to learn to let go,
Yeah.
and sort of sometimes it's like even you if you go to see something, a beautiful sunset. Well, the great thing is your phone never captures it, right? So you
Mm.
just capture it in here and you think,
Yeah.
here it is right now. I'm going to store it inside my brain and my mind. And whether I remember it or not, it's like the feeling is there. And I think sometimes we don't feel that way about our stuff, you know?
Yeah, there's a fear I think people have that if the stuff is gone, the memory or the connection or the relationship is gone or the achievement,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
And it's funny because I'm an author. I've written 3 books, but I give away all my books, and I don't have like a pile of my books. In my house, I'm like these are for people to read, and not for me to accumulate. And I think that practice of learning to let go in a way that we have some control over is a very important life skill.
I'm curious as a female, uh, do you have a place like is it beauty products, bathrooms, skincare, clothing, special plates or things? Or do you have a place that you're always wrestling to keep it smaller?
Yeah, I love vintage jeans. And I was just in LA actually, and there are some really good vintage jeans in LA. And yeah, and I think because they're also each one is unique, right? And so each pair of vintage Levi's like has its own story and its own patch. And yeah, for me, I do find, and I think also because I do have this uniform where I basically wear the same thing every day, composed of jeans and some sort of simple top. I am always like on this quest for the perfect iconic pair of jeans, and I do feel that I overbuy. And minimalism and perfectionism too, there's a fine line because I think in the quest for like the one best right thing, you can make yourself a little cuckoo.
Mm.
So I do have to rein it in with the jeans. And I share a 3 foot by 6 foot closet with my husband, and we both like clothes and we both like shoes. And so essentially, we're really limited by the rod. Like we each have one rod and we each have a handful of shoe shelves. And so it's like, I don't want jeans spilling out onto the floor or on every crevice. So it kind of keeps me honest that, if I buy a pair of jeans, I do try to wrestle with myself to get rid of a similar pair of jeans,
Yeah.
but it's hard.
I know, I feel like skin creams accumulate like nobody's
Mm,
business. Even if people
yeah,
give I have friends that'll gift me like, "Oh, this is the latest, greatest," and before I know it, I look on
right.
my counter and I'm like, I use 7 moisturizers on my face?" And it drives
Yeah,
me nuts, but I get stuck in it, and I'm pretty good, but I still get stuck in it
yeah.
going, "Well, this person gave it to me or it's valuable or whatever," and sometimes I find too that we're in sometimes better moods to do it than others, and when you know you're in that mood,
Mhm.
it's like, "Man, get into a drawer right now
Yeah.
because
Get it
you'll
out.
because you are."
I mean, yeah, I find with the skincare, I know you have 3 girls and I have 2 girls. Give that away to your girls and their friends and they are ecstatic, right? So like I'm very simple about my skin. I have 3 products that I use plus sunscreen. And I have one, clean, local, sustainable brand that I love supporting. And it's reduced so much decision fatigue because I used to always, the latest, the greatest, the new thing, the tonic, the serum, the mask. And I really believe, and I'm not a scientist, but the woman I buy my skincare from is a scientist, and she really thinks that the less we use on our skin, the better. And it's really about diet and hydration and all of those other things, sleep.
I was just wondering if when you work with clients and people, it'd be like you're being a trainer in a different way. If this muscle, if it does get easier, if people just sort of like you said, get through it, start to systemize, do a little bit at a time, get mini wins, if that muscle gets stronger through time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is because it's a mindset shift
Mm,
and a perspective shift more than anything.
right.
And I think so much of what I hear feedback wise is just I needed the permission. Like I wanted to get rid of this, but I felt guilty or I felt nervous or I felt anxious about it. And you telling me like, yeah, give it all away. You're going to be fine. You're going to be better than fine. That's what I find that then people say, like, I kind of hear that voice now being like, it's fine.
Mm.
If you're giving things away and you have a regret, which I can say in my, 15 plus year career of helping people edit, I have never had one person call me and say, I'm so upset that we got rid of
Mm.
X, Y, or Z. I have people calling and saying, like, I feel lighter. I feel like I'm eating better. I've saved money. I've started a new job. I've started dating. But I've really never had anyone say, I'm filled with regret that I gave away these things and I miss them.
And I think we don't even realize sometimes, even when you clean out cabinets, it's like the energy, like you walk into a room, you may not even see behind the cabinet, but the fact that there's less stuff in it and it's more organized, it does shift the energy of the place that you're in, the room that you're in.
Yeah. Physical clutter, I think, creates this mental load where even if you think it's not bothering you, it's kind of ticking away in the back of your brain like there is unfinished business for me to attend to. And that is so draining
Yeah.
to feel.
Sheets and towels. Do you sort of say, okay,
Yes.
every bed gets two, a change and a present one, and once that gets worn out and starts to fall apart, new ones? Like, because sometimes I feel like you get these collections, like, oh, I have these thick white towels, and then all of a sudden it's this weird accumulation, and then you look in your cabinet one day and you think, okay, how many towels does a family
Yeah.
need?
Yeah, it's so fu I literally just edited a linen closet in LA last week where the family could not find a single thing because it was just dozens and dozens of balled up sheets and towels, and I was like, "How many towels do you need?" And they were like, "4." Like, "We need 1 for each person that's really nice," and they did the laundry once a week, and so they kind of up leveled their towels, donated all of them to a pet shelter,
Mm,
and started over. And pet shelters are a great resource for if you have, old linens in any condition. But yeah, I mean, my rule of thumb is like 2 sets per bed, 1 set on the bed, and 1 backup to swap out. And towel wise, like 1 or 2 per person max. Um, in my family, we have 4 people. We have 4 big, nice bath towels. They hang on a hook and that's it. And we wash them and put them back on the hook. So we don't even have to fold and store them, which is a bonus.
yeah. Okay, jewelry. I'm not
Okay.
obviously, I'm a very simple girl. I don't, I
Yeah,
have jewelry and I only will wear things that have been given to me because they mean something, but it is something that you end up, I mean, especially you ought to get into the whole value conversation. It's the double whammy. It's the most nostalgic, and then
yeah,
my partner gave it to me, my whatever aunt gave it to me, and then there a lot of the times the pieces have more value.
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think jewelry is for wearing and enjoying or displaying. And what most people do with jewelry is stuff it in a million little jewelry bags and cardboard boxes and shove it in their underwear drawer. And that's very sad. So let the things out. Like wear the things you love, rotate the things you love. When people ask me about, jewelry storage, I'm like, store it on your body. Like I wear all my jewelry every day. I sleep in it. But for people that really love jewelry, like display it in a place where you can see it and enjoy
Mm,
it because it can be like art and you can appreciate it.
yeah, I love that. Okay, now I know you must, when you get brought into some place, there's definitely going to be an area that you get bucked, which is tools and the garage.
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're gonna need that tool, which I
You
live with
never
somebody
know.
who's very, very handy, and you start to realize, like, oh, in some ways, they're kinda right.
Yeah, it's a fair
So
point.
what do you
I
do?
live with someone who is not handy, and I am not handy. So we are able to be very minimal with tools because we're useless. But for the person who is handy, I think it's just like if you're actually using those tools to repair and build things,
Yeah.
great. Like keep them. If you have a garage or a storage place, like have them mounted on the wall so you can see what you have, instead of burying them in drawers. And yeah, I mean, it's all about like the practicality for your life.
Mm,
So I often ask people like who have tons of tools or tons of gear or tons of camping stuff, do you camp? Do you fix things? And mostly the answer is no. So in your case, it sounds like it is yes. Like obviously you're athlete, so you're going to use the gear, you're going to use it, then great. It makes sense to own it.
yeah.
It is adding value to your life. Um, I think the question is always like, is it adding dust or is it adding value?
Mm. Right. And do I need
And,
10 of the same exact size screwdrivers?
right. I just learned from my brother who's a chef, we really
Ooh.
all only need 3 knives and that's it, and, like, almost no kitchen gadgets because a good knife can do the job of almost anything. So that was, like, ask an expert. What do I really need to keep in this department?
Yeah, that's such an important point. So you wrote a book, Organized Living, eh, on organizers, which I think is so genius. Because for me, when I really read your book, it's like you start to realize that a lot of this is it's an extension of something about us emotionally and a mindset
Yeah,
that we have.
yeah.
So I'm curious about the ways that it showed up that was common.
Yeah. So I interviewed 25 organizers around the globe and went to all of their homes and spent time with them. And um, I think, the big broad things were like the desire for control, the desire for an intentional life. I think some of the themes that I saw were a lot of childhood disruption or trauma,
Mhm.
which I share. A lot of feeling like this is a thing that I do have agency over. A lot of appreciation for beauty and aesthetics and valuing the role of beauty in our lives, which I think often is kind of poo-pooed as superficial, but I think beauty can be an incredible tool for people, like to boost mental health, to boost quality of life,
Yeah.
to boost self-esteem. So that was really interesting. And I think, all of these people were helpers. Like, I think there is kind of a fear of people in my profession, like we're all going to come and judge you and like make you break up with your stuff. But really, I found like so many of the people I interviewed were also trained as therapists or life coaches or social workers or nurses. And really, it's a helping profession. It's people who want to help other people live better.
Well, and also because it is rare that it's easy for somebody. So if you guys all sort of fell upon this idea of like, wait a second, we are on this other side of the spectrum and it's easier for us. Maybe we could help people make it easier for them. I could see where that would be really inspiring.
Totally. Yeah. And I think just noticing because I made a point of interviewing people who were very different from me. Like I interviewed maximalists living in sprawling suburban homes, and I interviewed single people living in a 300 square foot apartment in New York. Um, and what I saw is all of them across the board did these three things, which were really get mindful about adjusting the volume of what came in the front
Mhm.
door, set up very simple intuitive systems, and then implement daily habits. And I would see that even just when like the kids and the dog would come home, I would see them just quietly like putting things back where they belong in like 2 minutes, but very mindfully, so that there never was like a big heap of mail or stuff by the front door. So I noticed with all of them, it was kind of this intrinsic, ritualized habit of putting things away.
Right. In your latest book, which I'm going to just flash it in case someone is watching. Look how pretty it is. It's almost like the environment you're in lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
So
It
beautiful,
matches my home.
and even the pictures inside, it's just it's very compelling because what it feels like to me when I look at it is it feels really calm,
Mm.
and When people talk, I always think, oh, everyone's like talking about happiness and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, no, peace is a really great place to start from in whatever thing we're trying to take on in life, whether it's our careers, our families, relationships. Starting from a place of peace uh,
Hmm.
is is really helpful.
That's so nice to hear. Yeah, I mean, I think most of the people I work with are really overwhelmed. And
Mhm.
so I think my job is to try to create more peace, more spaciousness, more calm.
Yeah, and you do that. If you got home late, midnight, 1 a.m. from a flight, and you had your little rolly
Mhm.
suitcase, would you go straight to bed, or would you unpack everything and put the dirties in the laundry and then put everything
I
away?
have to unpack, but I feel like that's like a little bit of my own like mental illness. Like it's really
But
like a
how
compulsion.
do I know how to ask that question is more important. Like, I mean, listen, if I sometimes it's late and I'm like, I want to wake up tomorrow,
Yes.
what would be easier for me would be to do it right now at 1 a.m. than to wake up to it at 6:30 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, it's like giving that gift to your future self,
Yeah.
right? It's the reason I do the dishes. I don't wanna do the dishes, but I wanna wake up to a clean kitchen. And likewise, I get home, I'm exhausted, I have this suitcase, but I don't wanna wake up to the suitcase and the dirty clothes and the toiletries to put away. And I also find tasks like that typically take mere minutes, but the mental load is much bigger than the mere
Yeah.
minutes. And so I'm always challenging myself to do like I call it a 15-minute win. And in that case, it might even be like a 5-minute win. But can I just knock it out so I don't have to think about it later?
I often think sometimes I'm and I wonder if you think about this where okay, so the ultimate in life is okay to be adaptable, right? Whatever's happening, we're adaptable.
Mm.
That's sort of actually probably the pinnacle of, let's say, performance or being a human being. It's like, oh, I can adapt. I can switch and go over here.
Mhm.
And I'm sort of observing sometimes when I'm wondering if this thing that I'm doing is actually better, or when it's learning. Have there been times where you're like, oh, actually, in this moment, I need to let it go?
Totally. Yeah. I talk about in my most recent book the art of lowering the bar. And I think it's such an important life skill for all of us, especially women who have so much pressure to
Mm.
do it all and juggle it all perfectly. And I think for me, like as a busy working mom and an author, I'm always having more come at me than I can nail effectively. And so, one of the many examples I give in the book is like I've lowered the bar on cooking a lovely, beautiful dinner for my family. I don't enjoy cooking. I do enjoy eating other people's food. But if I'm in a grind writing a book or working on something and I need to get dinner on the table, I will get takeout. I will whip something together. We'll do breakfast for dinner. I'll ask my teenagers if they can cook, right? And I used to have a lot of mental drama about like
Mm.
that's not what a good mom does. And yeah, it's incredibly liberating to say I'm not great at these or I'm not going to become great at these things right now in the season of my life. Maybe in a different season when I'm not so ambitious in my career, I'm going to cook a beautiful three-course meal, but that's not today.
I really appreciate that because I think too, you just said it like this is what my genius right now. And it's like the ability, if you could show up more relaxed for your family by ordering a takeout or just making the dinner easy and simple instead of being frenetic and like it's all getting done, but you're like kooky,
Yeah.
because that's sort of what
Yeah.
happens.
I tried that version and it was not the best version of me. The best version of me orders takeout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in kind of rounding the turn on this conversation, I would be remiss not to ask you about storage. Do you have a
Mm.
preference? So, for example, in the kitchen, you even said like, hey, people don't have to label things, but glass containers, like you're inside your refrigerator. Do you have storage also within your refrigerator? How do you like to do it to make it, um, as just kind of buttoned up for you as possible?
Yeah. I mean, I think the easiest thing is investing in uniform storage. So like I have one set of airtight glass jars that are all the same size and shape and style. So it just creates an aesthetic that's very polished just because it's similar. Um, and in my pantry, basically anything that can be decanted is decanted, which I get a lot of grief for because people think it's not practical. But I have timed myself, and it is literally minutes to come home from the store and dump, a canister of flour or chocolate chips or Cheerios and seal it. And what I find is, particularly in the pantry, using glass airtight storage keeps your food fresher longer. You can see what you have at a glance. There's no packaging. I live in the Bay Area, so we have a lot of great local stores where you can buy in bulk and ditch the packaging altogether, bring your own canisters. Um, so it's more sustainable. My refrigerator is one of those areas that I have given up on in terms of aesthetics. It just isn't pretty. And I've done like beautiful fridge scaping and shown it off to my family who just laughs in my face. And then they shove and pile and put tinfoil balls, and it just doesn't work.
Just to really remind people, you really try to encourage people to also think about themselves. So actionable frameworks, right? So you've written these books where you give step-by-step guides, um, and then values-driven living. And so it's not about us doing it with your values, but you saying to people, hey, listen, it's important to align with your environment, with your own personal values. And
Yes.
I have a friend, he was a grandmaster chess player, and he actually
Mhm.
became a push hand champion. He's a very interesting, very smart guy. And in his book, he was
Oh.
writing about chess. He said, I really functioned well in chaos, like even on the board. He'd like to come
Mm.
from behind, and that was always better. And he said, and in my environment, that helped me. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting
Mm.
because I work the opposite. If there's too much visual noise, I'm not so good.
Yeah, I have worked with a handful of clients, particularly artists, who like some chaos and like some clutter and some mess. It's stimulating and exciting and inspiring for them. And so then if it works, right? Like no need to fix something that's working. I think in my career, what I've seen is that for the average person, they are very affected by their environment, and most people have a larger volume or capacity of things than they can successfully calmly manage.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I think I'm always advocating for less, just because I've seen the cost of clutter for people is huge.
And again, you're saying less, but better. And I love also the idea of investing in something. My husband jokes about cry once, especially when you're going to do something. It's like, he's like, just get the best
Mm.
thing one time. Like, especially when it comes to
Mhm.
functional tools or, you talk about using the china in your book. It's like, hey, you know, why have we gotten into thinking more is better? And we're so scared to go, okay, I'm going to buy this one special thing that I'm going to get to enjoy that won't go out of style, that I'm just going to love. I think it's a really interesting reframing, that, of course, the marketing man doesn't want us to do.
That's right. Yeah, it's not great for capitalism
No,
to buy less,
no.
but but less but better, like I do enjoy buying things. It's just I'm really particular and specific. I try to be really thoughtful about what I buy, and I like to set a criteria for the things that I'm
Wait, how do
buying.
you do that? What do you
Um
mean?
yeah, so for me it's like I'm really trying to get off Amazon because I don't think billionaires need to get richer. And I really love my neighborhood that has all of these little mom and pop stores. And so I was finding like Amazon and other online retailers have done such a brilliant job of reducing friction. It's so easy to buy
Uh-huh.
a book or a leotard or a notebook on Amazon. But as I have a friend who's a sustainability expert, and she said to me, but how sad are you going to feel if your little mom and pop bookstore is suddenly gone and your ice cream shop and all of the things that make your neighborhood unique? And so I'm trying really hard to kind of stop myself. Like, I want a new book. I could get it to my house in 2 hours on Amazon and it would be cheaper.
Yeah.
but I'm making the push to go walk to my local bookstore and order it from them and get it 2 days later, right? And so I'm trying to be more mindful about local. I'm also trying to be more thoughtful about sustainable choices. So I mentioned like I really try to avoid buying plastic. And plastic often is like an organizer's main tool. And I've really kind of committed to, when I'm organizing a home with someone, trying to see, can we repurpose things before we buy anything? And then if we're buying, can it be natural materials like wood, or metal or cotton? There's so many alternatives. But I think everyone should have their own criteria, right? Of like, what are the things that you want to support with your money?
Yeah.
Who are the places? Who are the brands? Who are the people? You vote with your dollars. And I think, it's so easy to spend kind of carelessly and recklessly. But if you think like every dollar that I have and that I earn is a vote for something, who do I want to vote for? I find that to be so empowering.
Yeah. I think we never give it credit that it's all these little things, even like you said, like bringing the basket to the woman at the school or a simple hello at the grocery store, all of these mini things that we can do to move things, the world that we live in the direction that we're hoping. I know it seems daunting, but all of those things really, really do make a difference.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And it feels good to support people and brands that are doing work that are values aligned.
Yeah.
So I think taking the time to do like a little research, a little digging,
Yeah.
so that you can feel just better about where your money's going.
I think when I first saw your book, I was like, oh, we're going to be talking about organizing. But what really comes through in your book is this idea of a more intentional and fulfilling life, not just a more organized life, and really encouraging people to go like, what do I want that to look like? Can you just remind people all the places that they can find you, and just learn more about what you're doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a Substack that is completely free. And it's called The Life Edit. That's kind of my hub where I share weekly articles, have a great community of people who are trying to do more with less. And then I have a website, shiragill.com. There you can find courses, consults, ways to work with me. And my 3 books are Minimalista, Organized Living, and Lifestyled. And they are all sold wherever books are sold, wherever you want to vote with your dollars.
Wait, I have to ask one last question. Let's say you have a larger family.
Yeah.
Maybe just for someone listening, what would be best first steps on something like that where you don't have a ton of storage, you don't have, and there's just a lot going on?
Yeah, I do identify with that. So I think it's starting with, I love a family meeting. So I love to get my kids and my husband together in one room and kind of think through like, what is a mission statement for our home and how we want to live together? Where do we align and where do we collide? And everyone has a different clutter threshold. So I think starting by arriving at some sort of baseline that everyone can agree to. So in my family, I am the only minimalist of the 4 of us, right? The decision that we've made as a family is because we have this really small, hardworking home. We've all agreed that our shared spaces, so our living room, our dining room, and our kitchen, will remain minimal and organized and tidy. And everyone will kind of keep their personal stuff out of those prime living areas. But then in everyone's specific room. So my teenage daughters each have their own small bedroom. My husband, during COVID, we built a shed for him. So he has kind of his own domain. Like, I am not allowed to control what goes on in those rooms. I keep my hands off and they get full reign. Like, my teenagers can plaster their walls with posters if they want. They can do whatever they want in there.
Yeah.
And so that gives this sense of like everyone has a place where they can express themselves fully and relax and unwind in a way that feels good to them. And then we have this kind of shared
Yeah.
baseline that we agree to. So I think starting
Yeah,
there.
I think I used to tell my girls neutral spaces. So living room, kitchen, and I go, at least by the end of the day, don't have anything of yours in the neutral space. And like you said, giving them a space of like, listen, maybe kids even share a room. It's like, but on this wall by your bed, you get to put up whatever you want, and giving them that
Yep.
autonomy, which I really do think is so important.
Yeah, zoning it up. Like, if you're splitting a room with 2 or even 3
Yep.
people, like, what zone belong I mean, I did that when I had college roommates, like, my little sliver was immaculate, and
Oh, now you must have, did you bite
the
your
rest
nail?
of the room was
Oh,
wild. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, it was
What
hilarious.
about if you have somebody who goes, listen, I have all these photography books that I've collected of all these great photos. Would you just sort of say, hey, that's because that's important to you and you relook at them from time to time? That would be okay.
Yeah, fair game. Yeah,
Okay.
I have a decent amount of coffee table
Okay.
books. I love looking at them, I love referencing them.
Yeah. They get inspired.
Yeah, if you have the room for
Yeah.
them in your home and they are
Yeah.
enjoyable, then why not?
Shira Gill, thank you so much. And I want to tell you something that getting ready for this, I've decided, and like I said, I'm pretty good. I'm about to go through my whole house over the next 5 days and just sort of
Oh,
see where I could tune it up uh, and get even better, because I think there's so much to even staying on it a little bit, a little bit. I mean, do I need 9,000 charging cords? You know what I
no.
mean?
No. No, you do not.
It's like,
Yeah. Oh, I love that so
so
much. You'll have to report
well,
back.
thank you so much. And I really just appreciate the thoughtfulness of your work. It's not just like get organized. It's like, okay, well, first ask yourself, what do you want your life to look like? And how is this going to support you? And then what does that look like? And how do you get going? So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. This was a blast.
Thank you, everyone.